Good evening, everybody from Toronto. I'm Steve Paikin. In just 9 days, we'll be voting in an Ontario election. Tonight, we're hoping to get a clear view of where the major party leaders stand on some of the important issues by debating those issues. And let me introduce you to the leaders. Dalton McGuinty is the leader of the Ontario Liberals. Andrea Horwath is the leader of Ontario's New Democratic Party. And Tim Hudak is the leader of Ontario's Progressive Conservatives. The leaders know the rules of the debate, they have agreed to them, and they've asked me to enforce them. We asked Ontarians to send us questions over the last few weeks, and we got about 1,000 of them. We chose 6, and the 6 we picked reflected those issues you wanted to see debated the most. The leaders will hear and see them for the first time at the same time you do. The first one-on-one debate will be between Mr. Hudak and Mr. McGuinty. Mr. Hudak will respond to the question first, which is about jobs. Roll tape, please.
My name is Catherine Balfour, and I'm from Pickering, Ontario. My question is about college and university grads who are forced to take minimum wage part-time jobs or even leave Ontario and Canada to find full-time employment. How would you help these grads find full-time gainful employment in Ontario?
Okay, Tim Hudak, you're up first.
Well, you know, it's tough being a young student today. You have significant debts when you're coming out of college or university and entering one of the worst job markets in memory. You know, I was at Conestoga College just the other day, and I asked the students there who are in an apprenticeship training program how many of their friends were heading out west to Alberta, Saskatchewan to get a job. And you know what? Almost every one of them raised their hands. I want to be Premier to make sure that Ontario is the best place in all of Canada to get a good job. The kind of job that'll be the ticket to the middle class where you can raise a family and buy a home, not the part-time low-wage jobs that Mr. McGuinty is taking credit for. We have a 5-point jobs plan to make Ontario #1 in Canada for jobs, particularly for our young graduates.
Mr. McGuinty, you want in?
Sure, by all means. I want to thank you very much for that question. These are very uncertain times in the global economy. And the truth is, though, that Canada fares pretty well. And within Canada, Ontario is doing quite well as well. Since January, we've created more jobs in Ontario than the rest of the country combined. You know, it's been said that we can't build the future for our young people, but we can build our young people for the future. That's why we're putting such a heavy emphasis on educating our young people. That's why one important part of our plan is to reduce tuition by 30%. That means $1,600 less for university tuition and $730 less for college tuition. The fact of the matter is we continue to create jobs in Ontario, and we've got some great plans to get us there, and I look forward to talking more about that this evening.
You know, the problem, though, is I'm hearing the opposite when I'm talking to students who are saying that it's awfully difficult to get a job no matter what the tuition may be. 300,000 manufacturing jobs have been lost under your watch. In July, Ontario lost more jobs than all the other provinces combined. So we need a change of course, one that says to young people at Conestoga, at Confederation, at Brock, or U of T, that Ontario will be the best place again to get a good job. So our plan, 5-point job plan in Changebook. And you can see it at changebook.ca. But here's the bottom line. 1, to treat energy policy as economic policy, not a social program. So businesses will have the incentives to hire and expand again. Number 2, to drain this swamp of red tape that bogs down any small business leader trying to get things done in the economy. Third, we're going to create 200,000 skilled trades positions by modernizing our apprenticeship system. 4, we're going to lower business taxes down to 10% to encourage businesses to hire and create jobs in Ontario. And 5th and finally, unlike my opponents, we'll give families relief, the confidence to spend in the economy again. And that's why we'll take the HST off heat, off your hydro bill, and bring in an income tax cut targeted particularly at middle-class families who are being squeezed.
All right. You may not be surprised to learn that we've got a jobs plan as well, but it's a little bit different from yours. Coincidentally, it does consist of 5 points as well. And it starts by creating the most competitive workforce in the world. We're already very close to that right now. We've got the highest educated workforce among the 34 OECD countries. We're 20% higher, for example, than the US and twice as high as the UK in terms of the number of our adults who have achieved a college, university, or apprenticeship certification. Beyond that, of course, we do want to have competitive taxes here, and we continue to lower them. In fact, we've recently lowered them for families by $355. Here's where I part company in a decided way with my colleague, Mr. Hudak. I think it's very important for us to invest in the clean energy sector. I think it's a great opportunity. I think we need to seize that opportunity. We're the #1 in North America now when it comes to producing cars. I want us to be #1 in North America when it comes to producing clean energy technologies. That's where the world is going. I want Ontario to be there first in North America.
You know, Mr. McGuinty, your jobs plan has been a failure. 300,000 lost manufacturing jobs. Our resource sector has been decimated. It is the most difficult job market for young people leaving school today to find a good job. And you're boasting about low-wage, part-time jobs, trying to take credit for that. Sir, your green energy jobs are nothing more than a shell game. You promised us we'd pay higher hydro rates and we'd get all these jobs and new power. Well, we got the higher hydro bills, all right, but the jobs never came, and the power is only 1/4%, despite the billions of dollars that you've sunk into it. It's not working. Well, we all know, Mr. McGuinty, higher energy bills,
Mr. McGuinty's
cost jobs.
Okay. Well, again, you know, I part company with my colleague in this as well. The fact of the matter is that when it comes to our electricity system and our hydro bills, we have begun a major rebuild of the system. We just scraped by in the summer of 2003 because the previous government had not made new investment in new generation. So we're making massive investments in new generation, transmission lines, and of course there's a cost associated with that. There's no escaping that. But when it comes to building a stronger economy and ensuring that we get international investment coming into Ontario and creating jobs here for our young people, it's very important that we have a healthy, vital electricity system in place. And to help families with that cost, we're taking 10% off our electricity bills.
That's the end of the one-on-one segment. We now bring Ms. Horwath into the mix as well. Anything here you've heard you want to pick up on?
Well, I actually want to go back to what Catherine was saying in her question, and I'm so glad that Catherine brought this question forward because it's the exact same conversation that I had about 2 months ago at the YWCA in Hamilton, when a couple of women and I were in the change room, and they were talking about the fact that their adult children had been to university. They got their degree, couldn't get a job in their field, so they went to college, got their diploma, still couldn't get a job. And in both cases of these women, their kids were working in hospitality, waiting tables, trying to pay off mountainous student debts. This is not the way that it should be in Ontario. Students deserve a chance after university, after college, and they deserve a chance without a mountain of debt on their backs. And that's why our plan is not about the tax giveaways that these guys talk about. The blank checks to companies that don't create jobs have not worked. In the last 10 years, we've given $20 billion away. Our plan: give a tax cut to the companies that create jobs. Give a tax break to the companies that train their workers on the workforce. Give a tax break to the companies that are investing in their plant and machinery, and you'll create the kind of jobs that will be there, not just for new Canadians, but for young people and people that have been laid off.
I'm not saying that it's all sunshine and apple pie, but I think it's important to take a look at the facts. And the fact is, we are the best job creator in the country right now.
Mr. McGuinty,
Since January, we've created more jobs in Ontario than the rest of the country combined.
Mr. McGuinty,
June was so good, we created more jobs in Ontario than the entire United States of America.
The fact is, Mr. McGuinty,
so we are
that your
making
plan is
progress.
actually failing because the biggest issue on the mind of students these days is jobs. Young people don't have jobs, and that is the problem. And you've had 8 years in office, and those jobs are not coming to Ontario. And so the question I think that Catherine asked about was, how are our young people going to get jobs? Your plan has failed so far. What we need is a change in direction. We need the kind of change that puts young people first and that puts jobs first.
Mr. Hudak and then Mr. McGuinty. Mr. Hudak.
You know, I'm sorry. I just don't know how you can say that things are going well in Ontario today. In July, we lost more jobs in Ontario than the rest of the provinces combined. August, we lost more. And I was down in Cornwall the other day. I met with a young man named Ryan. And Ryan desperately wants to be an electrician. That's what he wants to be in life. And he's working at Walmart. He's got a part-time job. At least he's paying the bills. But it's not what he wants to do. And he wants to be an electrician, and that's why our plan will create 200,000 more skilled trades positions for young apprentices like Ryan. He even has an employer, but he can't get the job with the employer because you are keeping an old apprenticeship system from the 1970s. We'll take it into the 21st century, move to a 1-to-1 ratio, and create 200,000 more skilled jobs for young people like Ryan.
If you want to get a job for Ryan, who's an electrician, then you should do what David Suzuki's doing and support my clean energy plan. It's creating thousands and thousands of jobs, and I would invite you, go visit those people working in those industries, whether you're going to London or Fort Erie, or Cambridge, or Cornwall, or Ottawa, or Mississauga, or Scarborough, or Sault Ste. Marie, or Thunder Bay, all kinds of jobs popping up as we apply ourselves.
For your photo op,
there's a really good opportunity
went there the
here.
next day.
I want us to be the best in North America when it comes to producing clean energy technologies. That's within our grasp right now. That's where the world is going. Last year, for the very first time, more money was spent globally in clean energy technologies than in fossil fuels.
Mr. McGuinty,
the world is going there. I want to be there
it's
first.
It's good to know that you've actually been to Thunder Bay recently. In fact, Mr. Hudak and I were there not too long ago, and we missed you. We missed you when we were in Thunder Bay having that debate about a week ago. But I have to say, when I go to Thunder Bay, people aren't talking about the good jobs. People are talking about the fact that 40,000 direct and indirect forestry jobs are now gone from Ontario, that you've allowed the forestry industry to collapse. In fact, I met with a gentleman in Dubreuilville. I don't know if you know where Dubreuilville is. It's not too far from Wawa. And that fellow told me that his family is now 3 generations in Dubreuilville, and because the mill is closed, because of your forestry tenure process, the mill is not going to reopen, and there is not going to be a 4th generation of his family in that town because there's nothing there for his kids. That's what Northerners are saying, that's what Northwesterners are saying about what you've done, and that's why we want to make sure that our natural resources are processed here in Ontario, giving jobs to Ontarians. That's part of our job plan.
Mr. McGuinty, you know the plant in Fort Erie recently laid people off. You got in a bit of controversy because the solar plant you went to claim was your flagship. When the media went there the next day, nobody was working. You promised us more jobs for higher and higher hydro bills. Well, we got the higher hydro bills, but the jobs never came. You have a failed course. You've chased jobs out of the province. We can't afford Dalton McGuinty anymore. And that's why we've brought in a 5-point jobs plan to make Ontario the best place to get a good job, a ticket to the middle class. Lowering taxes for businesses, more skilled trades in our apprenticeship system, and peeling back this regulatory burden that handcuffs businesses large and small. I want to get out of their way. I want to get behind them, help them create jobs, not fill out useless paperwork.
Well, you know, Mr. Hudak says he wants to create jobs. Samsung, I mean, the great news about Ontario, and there's all kinds of great news about Ontario, notwithstanding what you say, is that after California, we're the 2nd most favorite place in North America for the world to invest. So we've been working really hard to draw that investment in here. Samsung is one of those companies. They're saying they want to invest $7 billion in Ontario and create 4 manufacturing plants and 16,000 jobs over the course of 6 years.
But Mr. McGuinty,
that's something that we've got here right now. You would tear up that contract.
I don't think your private
let him finish the sentence, please, and then we'll get the other two.
You would tear up that contract and you would kill those jobs. That's something we've got happening here right now. One of the responsibilities of leadership is to find an opening and run through it. We know the world is going to clean energy. We know that the price of oil and gas is only going to go up. We know that the price of technologies always come down. Think of your flat screen TV and your computers. Why can't we be first at this in Ontario?
But when flat screen TVs were several $1,000s a year, people didn't buy them. They waited for the price to come down. It should be an affordable, competitive process. And here's the problem. You think higher energy bills create jobs. Higher energy bills have actually killed jobs in Ontario, and other jurisdictions have done this.
On that point.
For every
for
every job that's created a subsidized job, 3, 4, or 5 jobs are left elsewhere, and that's why we have 500,000 women and men who'll be out on the pavement tomorrow looking for a job in Ontario.
Last word to say to Ms. Horwath.
And I would agree with Mr. Hudak that Mr. McGuinty's private power deals have caused us a problem in Ontario in terms of a lack of competitiveness in the electricity system. But I disagree with both of these gentlemen when they talk about blank checks to companies that ship jobs out of Ontario. That's not going to help Catherine's child get a job. That's not going to create jobs. It hasn't done so for the past 10 years, where $20 billion has gone in blank checks. That's why tax credits for the companies that are creating jobs, investing in their plant and machinery, training their workers, reward the companies that are doing those things. Don't give blank checks to companies that are shipping jobs somewhere else.
Okay, that's the last word for question 1. We now move on to question 2.